Greetings. Are you ready? Then please, step forward into this virtual adventure in order to begin.
Nexus is our legacy.
Nothing here is what it seems.
A lost paradise it be. It's war, and it ain't gonna be pretty.
Nexus has a terrible secret.
Oh my.
Wildstar. Adventure is about to get an ass kicking.
There just ain't nothing better.
Hello and welcome to episode 15 of This Week in Wildstar. I am Jazzy, joined here today as always by my wonderful co-hosts, Nuttz and Cabal. How are you guys today?
Great.
Awesome.
Awesome.
I had something to say, but I forgot.
I hate when that happens.
I was just kind of thinking, oh, that's a real simple answer.
Glad you guys are good.
Yeah, doing really good.
Great.
Great.
Looking forward to the episode. Awesome.
And that's how we do it. All right. So today on deck, we are talking about some more changes. We had to cut it in half from last time because there was just so much we couldn't cover it all. We didn't want to give you guys a 5-hour episode. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the class updates, the PvP changes, and also the Raid Attunement changes that have already gone live. And then on top of that, we had the live stream, not this last week, but the week before, gave us some major housing updates. So we're going to talk about that. And then as always, we have our open mic. So stick around. Okay, so we're going to talk about more of the system updates that Wildstar is going to be implementing. One that has actually already gone into effect, but I wanted to talk about with you guys because there's some cool changes here, is the Raid Attunement changes. A couple of really big things actually changed with that to make it a little more accessible. The first thing is the metal requirement. It used to be silver for the attunement, and now it's bronze.
This is outstanding.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
I was pretty happy when I kind of come in and I saw Welcome to the Bronze Age. I was like, you know what? This is cool. You know, I like their little throw out there, Welcome to the Bronze Age. And, you know, I am pro for the attunement, you know, but again, it doesn't need to be such a barrier that it prevents people with a massive, massive time sink. And
yeah, I agree. This is definitely like the longest or like the hardest part of the attunement, in my opinion, to get people through.
Yeah, definitely. Especially
because you can't be carried and you're stuck by time and silver, and you know, you can't miss any of the objectives. So getting like, it was impossible to carry anybody. The only thing about that though is if people made it through that, they weren't carried, and then you know that they were, you know, good enough to raid.
But on the other hand,
at the same time,
but on the other hand, just because you don't do it within a time constraint, does that really say, well, you can't play your character that you're not?
It's not only a skill check though; it's also a gear check. You know,
understand
and make sure that you can do enough DPS. But yeah. I mean, that's kind of like, I'm conflicted for those reasons the same way, because like I like that it's going to make raiding a little more accessible, make it a little easier. I hate to use that word with Wildstar, but at the same time, it's like what Matt was saying. It kind of was
more convenient, not easier.
Yeah, that would be a better word. Yeah, and like what Matt was saying, it kind of was a show of like, okay, I have the skill and the gear and the capability of doing the raids, because the raids are like, you know, 100 times more than even the dungeons.
Well,
yeah, I think overall, I think they made a good move by making it bronze, because the way things are going, I feel like they need to make it easier to get to the raid content, because that's, if people just want to PvE, then they want to get to raids because that's the biggest content they got for it.
Yeah, because there is no other like, I mean, there is stuff to do, but I mean, if you have to think about someone, like you said, that just PvEs, you know, they're not going to do stuff like PvP or arenas or whatever. So basically, all they would have to do in their downtime is dailies and housing. And there's people that hate both of those. Yeah. So, I mean, they kind of need more stuff for people to do.
I don't like dailies.
I think if they fix their loot tables and their drop system, like we were talking about, you know, I think this will create a correction along with this, because right now you're fighting for your best in slot out of adventures or whatever, and you're having a hard time finding them because there's no real good progression. So without that, you know, if you put it to that bronze level, I think it's appropriate. I could understand maybe the silver a little bit more if their gearing progression and loot drops progression was better, because then you would kind of have the appropriate gear to attempt the silver a little better. You know what I mean? So
that makes sense.
All in all,
sure.
I think it's a good thing. But I think it will end up as they fix that loot table drop, that, you know, people will start to do silver more.
Yeah, and I think also it makes it so people are more likely to pug it, you know, to use the looking for group system, so that it gets more people, you know, through that step, because like Matt was saying before, that was the hardest step. And, you know, it gets more people through it, and then, you know, in turn gets more people in raiding, because right now there's very few people raiding, even the 20 man. So...
And to me, if people want to die in the raid content, so be it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because that's what, at least people get to see it. They get to try it. They keep feeling like maybe this is the day they get it, or, oh, we got close, or, oh, we improved. I mean, because for the PvEer, that's the content that they want to get to. And if they can't even get to it, I can see where they get quite frustrated.
Discouraging, yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, I'm at the point of where all I got to do is dailies at this point, or mess around with how, and I'm like, I'm dailied out. I'm just sick of the dailies. I have no desire. Like, do I have to just go run through this stuff again?
Yeah, I mean, even for me, the amp and ability points, it's not enough incentive anymore for me to try and get exalted with the reputations. I mean, just dailies are killing me. But it's like you're saying, that's really all there is to do. So.
And I think, like we talked about before with the pugs, I think they need to have puggable dungeons, and I think this definitely helps, because people won't like leave right away. They're like, you know, there's no way we're getting silver. There's no way we're gonna, you know, get anything good out of this. They just leave. But as soon as they get like puggable dungeons and stuff like that, I think it will help a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
For people, at least people who are casual and don't, you know, have a huge guild that can help them out. So they'll at least get through the dungeon bronze, however long it takes, and they'll get credit for it. So.
And if you want to keep people playing, people need to be getting to the content and trying the content, because that's what they want to do.
Yeah. The only thing I worry about, though, is, you know, once you get more people there, let's say a majority of the players there, they're going to start complaining about how hard the raid content is, and things might potentially change there, or they might nerf it or whatever. And I mean, the soul of Wildstar is its difficulty, the challenging gameplay. So I really don't want to see that go away.
I agree, but it may be inevitable, because let's face it, Carbine's going through some changes as it is, whether you like it or not, and I don't know what is driving those, but, you know, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Definitely. So another thing that's been changed is the world boss step has been reworked. Yeah, this is actually a really good change. This one I'm happy about. Instead of before, you had to be on that step to get credit, which meant at 50 you had to go back and kill, let's say, Metal Maw, a level 10 world boss. Now you will get credit based on your achievements even before you are on that step. So that's awesome. You don't have to go back at 50 and do it. Which really I've seen tons of world boss groups going on now. I've actually done it myself now, because there was quite a few world bosses I didn't even know about because I didn't bother. So this is great for me. I love this.
I mean, this really opens up another piece of the game for people to, because like you said before, you weren't on that step, so you really didn't have a point to look into it, or a purpose or an interest. It was just one of those things that, well, that has to wait. But now, I mean, now it's like it's something else to do. Well, maybe instead of doing the daily or go mess around with housing and sinking the few plat I have, maybe it's I'm going to see if I can find a circle or people doing some world bosses and get involved in that.
I think this is a really nice thing that they did, especially for people who are leveling up or just starting out. They can kill these bosses, and it's not that far out of their way, as long as they, you know, kill every world boss in every zone that they go to. But the thing is, it doesn't help the people who are already 50, right? Unless they killed a world boss. Now they know. They didn't know before, I should probably kill these world bosses. But now, so, I mean, to me, I hated the world boss step, and I wish it was taken out, just because I feel like it doesn't prepare you for
raids at all?
It feels like it's just another time blocker.
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
time
another
gate.
thing to delay you.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily difficult.
But I mean, if
know.
they had set it up like this from the beginning, it would have made more sense because
I think
it's
yeah,
part
I
of the
think-
content and you should experience that way. But, you
Sure.
know, us being people that
fact-
started at the beginning, it didn't get set up that way.
I think
Right.
the world bosses should be before adventures in the steps. Because if you're thinking about difficulty, world bosses are probably the less difficult.
See, with some of them, I could see that. It's kind of 50-50, though, really.
Yeah.
Because there's some low-level bosses, but then there's some higher-end ones that are really difficult. So, I don't know. I could see that, but I think it might be okay where it's at.
I guess I could see it being first in the notion that you're out in the world, you're questing, you're doing some group content and some of these more elite mobs and so forth, and that you're out in the world. And so a natural step would be to say, oh, look, there's that guy.
Well, what might
You know?
have made
Yeah.
it good is if they had just made it so you have to kill the higher level world bosses, like the level 30 plus ones,
Yeah.
let's say, because those are the ones that are actually somewhat challenging. The ones in
Yeah.
the starter zones, not so much, but
Yeah.
I mean, with this change, though, the other thing I wanted to talk about, I think that it helps, with the moving forward, because this step is behind that, dungeon medal requirement one. So the fact that people can, group up and just do this and get it done quicker, you see a lot more groups for this now. So that's going to get more people attuned,
that's good.
more people into raids again, which is what they're pushing for. So
Yeah.
I really do like this change. This was a good
Yeah.
one for me.
Totally agree.
So the next thing we're going to talk about
Oh boy.
is a big thing here. This one I'm not so much a fan of, honestly. They added an item called the Pristine Genesis Key. Now, this one actually is not in yet, but it will be shortly. I think it's actually going to be attached to Drop 3. What this is that it is a key that is going to drop off Omina, who is the final boss of Genetic Archives, the 20-man raid. One of them will drop per week. It can be traded, bought, or sold.
This kills me.
Here's the kicker with this. When a character equips this item, it will fully complete the attunement for them from 0 to 40-man instantly with no work required.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a few thoughts on this.
Yeah. I'll go first.
Yeah.
Let me take this one.
You take
Okay.
it. You start off.
So,
Warm us up.
here's the thing. I don't like that you don't have to do the attunement. The fact that it can be traded and sold means that a brand new player coming into the game could potentially get this. Now, I'm assuming when, it first gets sold, it's going to be quite expensive. But you have to keep in mind, people can sell cred. Even a brand new player to the game could come in and sell some cred if they have, tons of disposable income and buy their way into raiding with no skill, no test of skill, no time, nothing in the game, and they can
There's
raid.
absolutely no way that this should be able to be bought, sold, or
Yeah,
traded. There's no way it
I
should be like
I
that.
agree. I think it should be mainly meant for alts. If you don't,
Yes.
if you can make an alt and then you're like, I don't want to do that whole thing again. You get this, luckily off a drop, and then you
See,
get
I don't even agree
3
with that
attunements.
notion. I don't.
I am with Nuttz. I was on that. I sat there and I looked at this and I was like, I could see it if, like, you have completed X, you have a tune that's in the rating, and you have done the attunement, and they want to create something that could drop, and it's not necessarily you can't trade it, buy it, or sell it. But if you have an alt, you can kick it over to your alt because you've experienced it. Maybe you're just kind of kicking an alt up to play another role. Like maybe you're like, I don't really like this. I started playing my medic, and I'm totally digging it, and it's going to be my new main. Well, but you've already kind of done a lot of it, so I can see if you could pitch it off to them.
But see, I don't agree with that either, because I think that even if you're playing an alt, you still have not played that alt. You still need to show that, especially if you're going, let's say, from an extreme like a DPS to a healer, you need to have the skill to play that character. And in that raid environment, which is the hardest content in the game, you need to have practiced and done it and gone through the steps to kind of learn how to be in that environment. Now, what I think might be a compromise there is, let's say it'll push you up to like past the world boss step or something. Like if it did it almost halfway,
Yeah, I think
even
40
that,
mans is a bit
I would
far.
be okay with that.
I think up to 20 mans is fine.
Yeah.
Because I agree with what you're saying. I think the skills, the whole thing. I know people who just play the auction house and buy all the gear and have better overall gear stats than I do, but I do more damage because I know what I'm doing because I've played my class and haven't just sat in the auction house all day.
Yeah.
And if you have people just sitting at the auction house and buying this key and not having any idea what they're doing, but saying that they have because, you know, they finished the attunement.
And in these raids, every person counts. You know, if you lose people just because they're dumb, don't know what they're doing, you know, then you're gonna wipe, and it's just gonna make the whole experience not so great for everybody else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the only redeeming factors I have on this is, one, you have to have a full group of 20 people attuned already to get into the raid, to even step in the door. The second is that you have to kill the final boss of the 20-man, which is no small feat in of itself. So those are two big barriers right there, right off the bat. The other thing is that only one will drop per kill, so per week, essentially.
The one key to rule them all.
Exactly.
But the fact that they're making it tradable and sellable is beyond me. You know,
that's what I don't like.
I get that they're trying to allow more people access to the raiding content because that's what people want to do, and I get that. And if people want to wipe on that raid content, I get that, but I just feel like I see a lot that can go wrong with this.
Yeah, it's a good start, but it might need to be reworked a little bit. Like some of the things we talked about, like maybe halfway, or it completes part of it, or maybe you have to buy multiple keys to get all the way through it or something. Like, I don't know. Just
I agree with both of you guys. I feel that if they're going to have it, it should be meant for alts, really, not traded, unless it should be like account bound, I feel. So they can send it to other
people,
but I think up to 40 man is a bit extreme, and having it to 20 man so they can at least, experiment and figure out their class, the new classes they're working with, and get gear and stuff, because they definitely don't want greens and 40 mans, let alone 20 mans. So
or even if they had it where it was like almost like you had to unlock certain stages, like maybe it allowed you to skip certain stages of the attunement, but yet you had to complete other parts as an unlocking mechanism.
I feel like dungeons would need to be finished.
Yeah, like certain key points, almost like a Cliff Notes version or something. But,
like you could skip something.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, you could buy multiple keys to get, like, all the way through it or something and skip, like, certain things.
Yeah.
Something. But, yeah, as it sits right now, not really a fan of this at all. Like, I understand what they're trying to do, but I'm not sure this is the way to do it, quite honestly.
I just see a lot that can go wrong with it.
Definitely. All right, so moving on from that, we're going to talk about class updates now. These are some big changes, actually, to a lot of the classes. Some general stuff.
Nerfs and buffs.
Actually, both. Yep.
Yeah.
Some general stuff that's going to be coming for every class is assault power is going to be normalized across all classes, and support power is going to be normalized for tanks, just tanks.
What does that mean, though? Like, so healers don't get.
It means that basically everyone will, as far as like your milestones and your earnings and things like that, like all your gear will have generally the same amount of assault power versus support power. Because as it sits right now, like example, assault power on weapons, a pistol will have, I think it's about twice as much assault power on it than like a greatsword does. So they're going to make it so they both have the same amount.
Right, but what about support power, but only for tanks? Like, why wouldn't they have it?
They're trying to make it so that all tanks are on the same level. They're not right now. Engineers are actually really high up because their milestone gains are actually better.
Yeah, that's good, because I know Stalkers were super, at least when I was raiding we had 2 Stalker tanks because they could heal themselves and they could generate so much threat. So.
Yeah.
Which just makes sense to me. I mean, I can understand normalizing it, so you've kind of got a basis, across the board. So
I'm glad
I don't
about that. But
yeah, I don't see. I think
but at the
this
same
is a pretty good
time,
move.
in my raid, I had medics, like all medic healers, I think. So I felt like spell slingers and espers, which I would love to see in a raid as a healer.
Well, they've already made some changes to healers, which is why I think they didn't include healers in this.
Oh,
So yeah, they did that in not the last drop, but shortly after they did another update. They kind of gave healers a little more oomph. So I think that this is them trying to push it back and work on tanks and DPS now. Like I said, the milestones and everything and the primary stat weights are all going to be normalized across the board. All the weapons and armor, attack power and support power on tanks or for tanks will be all the same so that nobody has an advantage basically.
okay.
What they're also going to do is all classes that have a DPS stance, it's going to be removed. So there's not going to be any plus AP for anybody. And then tank stances are actually going to have damage reduction penalties now because tanks are doing a ton of damage and they want to pull that back.
Yeah, because I know that's what made engineers so good.
Yeah.
Was their stance. And those of you who don't know, maybe haven't gotten into raids or have a damage meter or DPS meter or whatever, before, is this in effect, class update?
Not
It's
yet.
at the next batch. So
Drop 3.
as of right now, I think, I haven't seen engineer in a while, but as of right now, I believe engineers had the highest DPS overall because they had a damage stance or a DPS stance, which would increase their damage dealt. But they tried to balance them out by making it so their weapons and all their armor had less AP on it. But the stance, like, you know what I mean? Like their rifle or whatever, their shotgun had generally lower stats on it, but their DPS stance gave them more damage.
Which is what they were trying to do. They were trying to balance it out for, like, let's say a Stalker, because the Stalker weapons would have a ton of AP on them versus, like an engineer, but then the Stalker was still a tank and could do a ton of damage. So they're trying to rebalance everything to just make everyone across the board kind of on the same page.
Yeah, and I like this.
Definitely.
Because it's gonna kind of nerf, I think, the heavy armor classes because they generally have the stances, and it's gonna kind of buff the in a way, I think, the lighter armor classes.
Yeah, it'll buff and nerf, quite a few, but it'll put everyone on the same level.
Same level, yeah.
So it'll be nice to have that. So going into some specifics about each class, we picked out a few little things here from each class in the notes that they had. We'll start with Spell Slinger. Tier 8 charge shot, the overall damage has been increased, but it is now a dot instead of straight burst. Which will give...
that, Spell Slingers.
Actually, it's a really good change for Spell Slinger because the problem that they have is that they're so bursty, they have no sustained damage, which is why they're so low on DPS charts right now. So
that's almost a nerf in PvP.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily
a little
like,
bit.
they'll do more damage, but they can't take you out as fast.
Yeah, but it'll be good for them roundabout in a way when everyone gets evened out. So, but yeah, it'll be good for giving them some more sustained damage. And then another thing is that Flame Burst is now castable while casting, which is their on crit ability. So good. Yes, that is very,
They did
very
a
good.
similar thing to medics before.
Yeah. And then for Spell Slinger healing, again, going into some healing buffs here, Runic Healing has had its overall heal increased, which is one of the main Spell Slinger heals, so that'll help them as well.
Is that the single target one?
I believe so, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
It's good, but it's not great for raiding. I mean, it kind of is if you're the main tank healer.
Which typically Spell Slingers are, because they're so good with single target.
Yeah.
Moving into Esper, they changed them so that, if they stand, they can be mobile while they're casting. What they're doing is they're adding new bonuses for standing still for both assault and support abilities.
Which I think this is a little interesting. I mean, they took them from a position of there was lots of issues because they couldn't move because it's such a movement-based game, and then they allowed him to move, which was a good move because I think they need to be able to. It's interesting that they're going to say, if you can find a spot to stand still and launch some stuff, we're going to give you some bonuses for that.
Yeah.
I think it's a neat idea.
I think that, it's because, like you said, they need to be able to move, but they are built as a primarily stationary class. I mean, they're what I would call, at least, your kind of intro class. Like, I want to get into the game, but I'm not really familiar with this style of, gameplay. An Esper is a good place to start, in my opinion. So,
it definitely creates a familiar feel.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it does make for interesting gameplay, though. I mean, it's going to encourage them to try and stand still, obviously, but the fact that they can move is good. They need to be able to and still, do things. And the other thing, which this has been kind of an issue for a while as a bug, the Soothe telegraph can now be seen by allies, which is one of their primary AoE heals. So people can't see it. That's bad, because I know we run our 5-man group with an Esper healer, and he's always yelling at us that we're running out of his telegraphs and we can't see him. So it's not very good. So that'll be a good change. Moving on to medic. All medic fields will now apply a buff or debuff to enemies or allies that stand in it, and the buff will refresh for each tick of the field as long as people stay in it. So that's an interesting change to all the fields. They're both buffs and debuffs for the duration of them. Will definitely make for some interesting gameplay. I don't really use any fields in my build. Do you, Nuttz?
I only did when I was a healer.
Yeah.
And the only field I really used was, I think, field probes.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the fields themselves, I've really only seen healers use them, but with some of the changes coming, it might be possible. I mean, it's still, like I said, it makes for interesting gameplay, if even just for a utility thing.
Yeah.
So, and then Paralytic Surge cooldown has been reduced to 25 seconds, which is amazing.
I like this one and the next one because people who are medics know the struggle of lack of interrupt armor for medics. And, some of the, especially for dungeons, you don't necessarily need them as much for raids. They don't have as much interrupt armor as you think. For dungeons, I know Tugga from Skullcano was always a butthole. Excuse my French. If you didn't have enough interrupts, because the whole fight is keeping them stun locked, really. Yeah. Warriors are the best. They have the most, I'm pretty sure, the most interrupts. So I'm glad that we have at least another interrupt armor coming, and it's going to be instant.
Yeah, what he's talking about is magnetic lockdown. It's being pulled off the global cooldown, is going to be instant cast and will interrupt casting and will remove 1 interrupt armor. So probably a lot of people are going to switch to that instead of Paralytic Surge, I would think.
I mean, I think the cooldown's shorter too.
Yeah. So we'll probably see that one, but I think that's probably why they're pulling Paralytic Surge down as well, to make it still kind of optimal.
I mean, like you could take 2 with Paralytic Surge.
That's what I was gonna say. I like this too because I always have the problem where with the build that I run, I have to pull DPS away to have that interrupt, because that's the only thing a medic can do.
Do you take away Fissure? Is that what
I think, I think so. That sounds right.
Fissure is good because it gives you the extra gamma rays.
Yeah, but it just messes me all up, so I'll be happy to see this stuff come down. And as far as medic healing, Crisis Wave is now going to prioritize allies with lowest HP.
God.
Smart heals are so good.
Yeah, we had a huge problem with this in raids where we'd have like 10 people standing in heals. Some of them would be healed up all the way and some wouldn't. They'd be almost dead, and they'd be standing in the heals. It's not the healer's fault because, he's putting it on the person, but there's too many people in the telegraph. It only heals 5.
Yeah.
But there's 7 people, and the 2 people who need health don't get heals. It's a problem.
Definitely.
The only problem I might see with this is medics have an ability called Triage, which is pretty much the same thing as a smart heal. It heals the person with the least amount of HP. But what I have noticed is, let's say you're trying to heal a tank, and he has, let's say the tank has 30,000 health, but he lost like 4,000, so he's at 26,000. Or is that right? Yeah, it's great. 26,000, and he's at 26,000, and the DPS is 20,000. It will heal the DPS with 20,000 health because technically he has less health than him. I think it needs to be percentage based.
Yeah, that's an idea. That might be something to look at.
Because if you're healing people at full health, but they just generally have a lesser health pool than the other person.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That needs the heals, it might be a problem. Maybe they thought about this. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be why they're changing this one too. So you have 2 of them that are smart heals.
Yeah.
Might help things.
Definitely huge problems in raids. Not as much as, dungeons and 5-mans, but when you have 20 people standing in the same spot and, 5 people need it and it's healing random people who don't need it, people are dying and it's not good. So I'm glad they're definitely changing it.
Well, especially when their raid content is as tough as it is, you can't have that kind of mechanic running around.
Yeah, and you can't waste your focus.
Yeah, because everybody's doing the right thing, but it's just not doing it the way it should.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is good. It's a really good change.
All right, so moving on to Stalker, Neutralize and Ruin will be receiving a buff to their damage. Neutralize will stack fewer times and has had the T4 and T8 reworked to increase damage output, which those are big abilities for Stalkers, I know. So they'll be happy to have that.
Neutralize, I think, is their main damage dealer for multiple target, right? Mm-hmm. So that's good. I don't see that very often anymore because of the change to backstab, or I think it's backstab, right?
Sounds right.
The ability, yeah.
I'm not too familiar with Stalker, honestly.
Yeah, I forgot. But their main damage dealer for single target, I think, hits 2 now. So I see a lot of Stalkers usually use that.
Which is funny that they're buffing them, because you see people so much talk about how they're overpowered. But I don't think the problem is necessarily their damage. It's more their utility, is what I hear from a lot of Stalkers. That, if they nerfed their damage, they wouldn't really bring much to the table, because anything they can do as far as utility, other classes can do, and sometimes better.
Yeah.
So I think that they need to keep their damage high.
Which is fine, yeah.
I think that's why they're giving them a buff, because of the whole AP normalization thing. They kind of need them to be a little stronger to keep them viable. Basically. The other thing they're doing is Bloodthirst has been reworked. It gives an ongoing damage buff at base in addition to a lifesteal. So that'll be cool for PvP, it sounds like to me. Mm-hmm. And they're getting a base CC break. Stim Drone now has CC break at base. So that'll be nice for them too.
I know they had a problem with their CC break, especially I noticed it a lot on Stormtalon when Stalkers get this circle and they got a CC break to get rid of that disorient.
Yeah.
And they just fall, they roll back and then they just kill everybody. Like, sorry guys.
Yeah. Oh man, we had that problem one night in ours. Yeah, because we had a Stalker tank and he kept having to use it. And doesn't it? It drops threat when they use their CC break, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that he would turn around and just smash my face in.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Oh boy. that wasn't working so well.
Yeah. So I'm happy that they're getting one. Hopefully this one doesn't drop threat either.
Yeah, they don't need to. I don't think they should drop their threat with their CC break. I mean, if they're tanking and they're in tank mode, nah, they gotta keep their threat.
Definitely. Moving on to Engineer. There you go, Cabal.
Yes, this is good stuff right here.
Self snares on all Engineer abilities will be removed.
And this, I think this is great because
what is a self snare?
It's you use certain abilities and it slows your movement speed.
Mm-hmm. The innate used to do that, didn't it?
Yeah, it used to, but then they removed that. Well, now there's certain abilities that kind of create a partial snare in yourself, so you move slower when you're using these abilities. Which to me, it's not a huge deal, but. For example, while we were running our 5-mans, I mean, there's so many telegraphs going on, and you got to be moving. That I noticed that if I wasn't balancing out my sprint meter, properly, that I couldn't simply move fast enough to get away from out of the way.
Gives you kind of a disadvantage.
Yeah, I'm totally running, and I'm like, it just you ain't moving fast enough because you have this slight self snare. So you have to balance your sprint meter to try to kind of get your guy to go so you can. But if you're off cadence with your sprint meter, you're in trouble.
If they can't teleport or leap or anything like that, and they're getting slowed by their own abilities, it just kind of sucks.
I would assume, are those abilities that snare you, are they like some of your best abilities, like the hardest hitting ones? Is that why they slow you down, maybe?
Some of them are, yeah, because they're generating a lot of hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Boltcaster.
Another thing that has been a constant struggle bot AI improvements, including adjustment to their stances to make them more, individual to differentiate them.
I mean, this is absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, any improvements to the bot's AI is great because I mean, I don't know how many times open world
You can
or
really
whatever.
go up from there.
Your bosses, your robots are just standoff like somewhere. You're like, what are you
now
doing?
Get over here.
It's like, I want to pull this thing. No.
I mean, they're just, I don't know. Sometimes they just do stuff. I'm like, maybe there's like a like you meter somewhere built in, and I'm like, they're PO'd at
To
me
earn
or
their
something.
trust. You don't have the right badges.
And it's
Pokemon throwback there.
You're always like, dismissing them to get them back, but it's like all of a sudden you just move a short distance open world, and they're like staying back there, and you're like, well, just
It's like when I do low level PvP on my engineer, and I remember I was doing a live stream probably like a month ago now, and I was just like the whole time screaming, "Where the hell are my bots?"
Oh,
like,
I know.
Just the whole time, I had no idea where they were, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm done. Botless build.
They say you can do the botless build, and I would like the botless build, but I just haven't found it to be really all that viable when you're just out doing dailies or whatever, because then you're constantly in that snare game.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't really like the snare game a whole lot.
I mean, I hope they can make them work because they're adorable and I love them.
Well,
but they need to work.
Yeah, they do need to work. Yeah.
So the last thing with engineers is multiple adjustments are being made to Mortar Strike to make it easier to use.
Which this is an interesting one because Mortar Strike does a lot of damage.
Yeah.
But I've heard that the trade-off for the volatility build to launch the Mortar Strike isn't, all that great. And while I've used it, I've kind of liked it. I've found it popping relatively frequently. Mm-hmm. This is going to be good because what they're doing, is if you're balancing out the APs, they're reducing the amount of volatility gained through Reckless Dash. So now you can't just dash around to gain as much volatility as you used to. So what this brings question to me, are they going to go more back to, one of the skills that, you got to spam to generate volatility, So are you going to be spamming to generate volatility more if they're reducing the amount that you get from the Reckless Dash? Because before, it was with the Reckless Dash, low on volatility, just dash around a little bit, boom, you're getting filled back up, start launching stuff. Getting low, before you even totally get low, you dash a few more times, launch more. I like the idea that they're reducing the amount for the dash because to me it seemed like the dash was...
They had no downtime.
Yeah, it was like kind of an easy way of getting volatility. I like the idea that I have to launch an ability to gain volatility. It just makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I feel like, though, that all this ties into Mortar Strike, because they're going to say, okay, Mortar Strike's a big damage doer. They're going to make it easier for you to use, but they're going to reduce the Reckless Dash volatility gain. So maybe now it's going to be more of a, spam a base ability to gain that volatility more, but we're going to give you, so maybe you'll get volatility a little slower, but we're going to open up Mortar Strike, which is a big damage doer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's going to balance itself out, but you're going to have to play it a little differently. It may not be that big of a deal at the end of the day, but we'll see when they get it in how it works out.
All right, and last but not least, we have Warrior. Jolt will become an on-demand ability, best used for pulls and burst threat on creatures out of melee range. So giving Warrior even more threat is always a good thing.
Yeah, I like all of these. But warriors need to be tanks, and I'm glad that they're, upping their
Definitely.
threat gain because by far I think they were the worst. Tanks
for sure,
for threat
100%.
generation anyway.
Yeah.
But they have so many good utility abilities. They have the reduced damage to everyone in that circle defense grid, I think it's called. And they got so many good things. They got so many good ways to pull, but they just didn't have the threat to keep it off their highest DPS. And I'm glad that they have all these, but we'll get to all of them.
Atomic Spear will be usable after being deflected and can be used while casting other abilities. So that's another good thing there too. Relentless Strikes will now trigger after every third strike rather than a random chance. That is so good. Get rid of RNG. We like having things that are more reliable.
Yeah, any kind of RNG is bad.
Was that their crit one, or what?
I think that's like their main builder, isn't it? I thought maybe. I'm not familiar with Warrior at all.
I can't even remember. They must have changed it.
I can't even pretend to know much about Warrior.
Brutal Strikes. What is that one? I don't know.
No idea.
I don't even know if that one is one. I'd have to log on to the Wildstar and look.
Ripsaw, which I know what that one is getting a slight buff to its tier scaling. So that'll be nice. A little more damage on that. Try and make that a little more viable option, because I know not many people use that. Savage Strikes is going back on the global cooldown and gaining a slight CD increase for a noticeable bump in damage. So it's going to have a longer global cooldown but do more damage, which is a good thing too. Whirlwind, which I know this one to be a running joke with Warriors that like absolutely no one uses this. Whirlwind is getting a noticeable buff to base damage, tier scaling, and both major tier bonuses are being reworked to enhance output, making it very strong for AoE fights. So it looks like they're completely redoing this. Completely redoing Whirlwind. So
I'm glad they're redoing it, because Whirlwind's fun.
Yeah, they definitely need more AoE ability. I've noticed Warriors don't have a lot, so it'll be good for them.
I'll look up what those abilities are, because I'm not
All right, that's it for class updates. Now we're going to move on to PvP.
Supreme Commander Nuttz. This is your world.
This has been a sore spot in the game pretty much since launch. So a lot of these changes are really going to help that. The biggest thing, in light of the issues with people selling rating and win trading, at the start of Drop 3, all current ratings will be reset for arenas, battlegrounds, and war plots.
Take that, you cheaters.
Yeah, exactly. The thing about it, though, is this will not be the end of the season. They're just going to reset it. In light of that, because there were a lot of people who were upset that, might have gotten it legit, there was a huge backlash about it being reset with no reward. What they're going to do is the top rated players, 2200 plus, are going to get a title. That'll be nice for that. To go along with this, the ELO formula that's used for rated PvP is going to be modified to decrease the amount of rating lost when you're defeated in a PvP match. Because I know that was a huge issue, that people would lose like 100 when losing, but only gain like 20 when winning.
Yeah,
so
a lot more than
that didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. And then the last thing in that, they're going to add 1800 rating sets for rated battlegrounds. So that'll be nice, a little set in between what they have right now. So on the live stream last week, we got a lot of housing updates and a lot of really cool changes that are going into housing. I'm super, super excited about all of this. I can't wait. Okay, so the biggest thing right off the top is that your limit for your crate is going to be increased to 2,000 items.
You can't go wrong there, because it sounds like a lot to begin with, what they originally had, but all of a sudden you get in game and you start just stacking the stuff in,
yes.
and you run out of space.
Especially me as an architect, because I was leveling up as I built things, I would use them. So I had, all these options, and my crate was darn near full by the time I was done.
Yeah.
And you see some really cool houses. Like when I look over their Facebook page sometimes, and they show me, cool looking houses, and there's like no limit to what they can do now.
Definitely. So what's coming with this is that you'll be able to have 1,000 outside and 1,000 inside. So that was kind of an issue too, is that you could have 800 items total, but you can only have 300 outside, 500 inside. Mm-hmm. And it seems like a lot of people want to build more outside than they do inside, because I think it's like the first thing anybody would see when they come in. So
and there's probably more room outside.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's so much more space. I mean, you got that whole plot. There's like so much you can do with it versus
inside is
any way to slice
outside.
Yeah.
Any way to slice the house, you only got X amount of room.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing with that is the lighting limit will be increased to 80 total, 40 inside, 40 outside. So that's another great thing, especially for me, because I actually started making a bar outside of my house, and I quickly found myself at my lighting limit.
Okay. For your bar, you got to have a bartender. Do you know how to make one?
I have a mannequin.
Oh, damn it. That's what I have. Damn it. I thought I was being original.
I have the mannequin and a Freebot plushie, actually. I have 2 of them.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I can't really finish it because I gotta wait until these changes come. I'm actually running out of like placement. I'm running to that limit too for how many items I can have outside and my lights. So I'm gonna have to wait for that, but it's awesome and I love it. I can't wait.
All good, yeah. These are changes you can't sit and argue about.
I know, right? Here's another big one. The customizable terrain is coming. They're going to let you change. You know, we all have the grass right now. They said, they mentioned specifically on the live stream that they had a desert and a snow one already working. They said that they've got a few other ones in mind. But yeah, they've already got this working and it should be deployed shortly onto the PTR. So looking forward to that.
That's good.
Another cool thing, you'll be able to turn your lights off and on. That's neat
pretty cool,
to me.
yeah.
They said right now it won't save it yet when you log out, but they will add that in the future. So I'm looking forward to that as well. That's a pretty cool change. Another thing, too, that I really like, especially being in a large circle, gardens will have their own permissions and can be set to owner only.
I like that, actually.
That's a good move, because with the gardens, I mean, I've heard a lot of people complaining how people come and they'll pick their stuff, but then the seeds.
Won't even plant it.
Yeah,
it's like what happens with they're like,
I feel like I'm back in Minecraft. I remember the same problem in Minecraft. Like nobody would replant my garden.
The thing about plants now is they're so, like, when you first start playing and before everyone knew their power, because certain plants can make flasks, which you really want for raids, especially. You need I forgot what it is. I think it's Bloodbriar is the best plant we can get right now.
Yep.
And you don't get very much from taking down a plant. And if people just come into you, because usually people have it at like 50%, maybe 75, and you only get like 2 or 3, from one plant if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And you don't always get the seeds when you take down a plant. And if they're taking stuff that, they're taking pretty much half of the seeds or the plant that you get, and then even less than half of the seeds, then, they're not even planting them. So you're not really getting anything. So,
well, and I heard some people were resorting to some real original creative ways to fix the problem before, where they would like build walls around their garden so nobody could get into it. And they would have to physically take down the wall in order to get in. And I mean, so people were coming up with creative workarounds, but I like the idea that now you don't have to do this whole big workaround.
Yeah, for me, like I said, I'm in a large mining circle and I have to have my stuff set to 50-50 to be a part of that circle. And I straight up removed my garden because of that problem. Like I just pulled it out and put something else in there until these changes come in, because I was trying to grow plants for making flasks for our guild, and I would just come back and everything would be gone. I did it for like a week and then I'm like, I'm done. Instead of repairing it, I just pulled it out. So I'm happy to see that coming too. That'll be really nice. I hope that they add, like, if they're going to set so you can set it to owner only with the permissions, it sounds like you'll be able to do it for like roommates only, or like other people can, harvest it too.
I would like to think that they'd put something in like that.
Yeah. So I hope that that's the case, because I'd like, if my friends or my guildies want to come in and harvest it for the same purpose, I'd like them to be able to as well without me being online. Yep. So I hope that that's a thing too. And this one, I actually didn't even notice that this was gone, because I know this was something that was in beta. They're going to put blank plugs will be added with a hatch that will go underground. Which is interesting, because I remember in beta, those actually existed. And it's funny that it completely slipped my mind until I heard them say it. And I was like, oh, yeah.
I didn't know that those were in
beta.
I know they had blank ones, but I didn't know they went underground.
They didn't have the hatch, no, but they had the blank ones. And I never even thought about it until they said something. Like, it completely slipped my mind. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. They said that this is coming in response to somebody asking a question about getting rid of that like construction site thing in the middle of the plot if you don't want to use one of the houses, like if you want to build a custom one. And it's a problem people are having because there's all that crap there. And so they said that they're going to put that in response to that. And it sounds like you'll be able to build like a basement too if it has a hatch that goes underground.
Kind of like a secret laboratory.
I can't wait for that. That'll be really neat.
Be kind of cool, yeah.
All right, and now we reach our open mic. We are going to start with Cabal.
Alrighty. Really, things have been kind of slow a little bit, but I've taken the time to go back and I got my Explorer path up to level 30, so I was pretty stoked about that. It was actually, I liked, going back and doing it versus doing it while I went along, I think because when I went back, I really enjoyed it because I could focus on what are these path missions specifically and to kind of just focus in on them versus, well, I'm in a hurry to level or do this or do that. And you just kind of throw them in there and it's just another questing kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It was neat to be able to go back and focus. These are solely what they come up with the Explorer content. And I thought it was a lot more fun. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great, but I got it done. So yay for me. The other thing over on our guild, Taw Dominion, we're on Stormtown. We've been putting together our 5-man fire teams for the Attunement, so we've been pretty busy there. We got some teams going together and, making some good progress, really getting that, working together kind of thing. So if you're looking for a guild, you can check us out at taw.net. We are currently putting together 5-man fire teams, so if you're looking to for people to give you a hand with that kind of content. We do go back to help people, and, we're having a real good time doing it in a relaxed environment.
Mm-hmm. And we're on Stormtown, by the way.
Yes, we are. Stormtown. Beyond that, that's about it.
All right, for me, I just wanted to take a second, and I kind of had a lot more planned to talk about this, but I'm going to break it down a little bit. I've kind of noticed a trend lately that the community, I know that people are frustrated, and I know, obviously there's issues with the game, but we all need to really treat each other better. It's kind of become a big issue. I see it a lot on the subreddit, and I know a lot of people say, oh, it's Reddit in general, whatever. But the thing is, that's our front line for our community. A lot of people go to Reddit to look for, hey, should I get into this game? Or, hey, should I come back to the game? And it's kind of horrible, the things that you see on the subreddit now. Like, back when the game, was coming out in the first month or two, people were a lot nicer. They were a lot more, helpful and welcoming, and that's really deteriorated. And
big time.
We've kind of allowed it to happen. I mean, I hate going on the subreddit anymore. I really do. And I used to love it. I used to be on there all the time. And I see people getting, downvoted and, flamed for just asking a question, like asking where something is or asking if they can get a trial key. They want to try the game. And, I just hate to see that happen. We can't let that happen to our community.
No, I mean, I totally agree with you because, if I were an outsider coming in at this point, I would probably wouldn't do it. I'd probably be like, yeah, because people are being nasty, and, at the end of the day, folks, it doesn't cost you nothing to be decent. Yeah. So,
I'm not telling people to pretend that there's no issues with the game. We all know there is. We all know what's being done to try and take care of it. But I see so many people, they're just like, screw Carbine, they're dumb and I hate them and you shouldn't play this game, it's the worst game ever. It's like, really? Is that necessary? Like,
keep it to yourself and move on. Get a life.
Do you have experience in making a new AAA title?
Right. Things happen. And I feel like a lot of these people just don't think logically or don't understand what it takes to make that, what it takes to go into a brand new MMO. Not only a brand new MMO, but a brand new IP from a brand new company. Like, I know that we have people that are experienced in the game, but they've done a lot to this point. And that's my biggest thing, is that don't allow our community to become toxic. We don't want to be known for that.
It's a process and it takes time, and let's be realistic about it. You can't just drop a AAA and a brand new IP out of nowhere and just snap your fingers and everything's just perfect, but it's a building process. And the cool part is that they recognize the problems, they admit the problems, and they're working on fixing it. What more could you ask for? They're saying, yep, we agree, we see it, we get it, we're gonna fix it. And they're doing it. I mean, how much more could you ask for?
You gotta be patient.
They're not sitting there going, oh well, too bad for you, just keep giving me your money. You know,
I mean, that's the thing too. Like, if you have nothing to do, things are slow, take a break. They've said that they are looking to have the drop come out in early November, is what they've said recently. So take a break if you need to. It'll be here when you come back. Just don't crap on the community on your way out. I don't want our community to become known as being toxic, and don't allow it to happen. If you see things like on Reddit or Twitter or whatever, stand up and say, hey, what the hell?
Take the high road.
Yeah, I mean, you can criticize and be constructive. You don't have to, go out on a flame war for Carbine, and like I said, I'm not pretending there's nothing wrong with the game. I just want to see people be better in our community.
Keep an open mind, try and see it from the side.
I want to see us back where we were, in the beginning of this. And like I said, I understand the frustration, just let's try. And that's all I have to say. We have from Nuttz, unfortunately, today will be Nutt's last episode. He's actually going to be going to school, so he won't have time. He doesn't hate Carbine or hate the game. He just won't have time to play. So he's going to say some stuff here now for us. Go ahead, Nuttz.
So as Cabal messes with my notes here, my very sophisticated notes. So me and Jazzy when we first met, it was on Wildstar, the closed beta. I think it was in a dungeon. I think it was Calvareth, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And I was a super awesome Stalker tank.
You were.
And she was playing a spell Slinger and with her friend Brian. Mm-hmm. And that's how I met them. And I talked to them on Skype and stuff like that. And our first episode was on February 21st of 2014, so this year. And to be honest, when we first started, I wasn't sure how far I was going to go, and I'm actually really surprised and proud of what we've done. Cabal definitely helped. Jazzy, let's be honest, Cabal, she's probably done all the work here. We're just here to do it.
You guys looked pretty for me.
We're here for support.
She already had the connections on Reddit. You actually got your key from, I think, Reddit, right?
Yeah, I did.
And she had all the connections, and she does all the editing and all the notes and all that stuff. And I'm just here, and I'm glad I could be part of it. It was always a hobby of ours, and I'm pretty proud and honored to be part of this. But unfortunately, real life hit me in the face. Soon I'm going to be transferring to a university. I'm going to be living with a couple friends of mine. And for one, I don't want you guys to hear whatever goes on in the background, because it could get crazy. I can't do anything about it because it's their house too. Also, I'm going to be doing a lot of homework. I'm trying to be a job as a police officer, and any officers or know any officers out there, it's hard to get a job as one. So I really need to step up my game and actually have me, be unique to an employer. So I need to work on school. I'm already getting kind of wrecked in the face by school. I don't have money right now to play Wildstar, so that's one of the reasons. So I'm not going to be up with the current events, whatever's going on with Wildstar. I actually haven't played in like a couple weeks, so I officially canceled my account. So this is as of next month, whenever the pay period is, I'm going to be officially unsubscribed. So like she said, I'm not against Carbine in any way. I actually love the game. I had many good experiences, met really cool people, and I'm actually playing other free games with them out of Wildstar, and I'm expecting to come back when I have time and money to do it. I'm pretty excited about it just from seeing, the next upcoming.
Don't worry,
patches.
we'll bug you again to come back on as a guest.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'll be back. But right now, I need to make sure the rest of my life is set up.
Definitely.
Because my career is important, and it's like the only thing I didn't want to do, be a police officer. I can't think of anything else. It's the only way I'm getting through college right now is having one criminal justice class. I'm taking politics, which is like the worst thing ever. But I'm glad I could have this experience and share it with you guys. So.
Yeah, I want to thank you as well, because it was me and you in the beginning, and you started this up with me without even really knowing me, quite honestly. And we had a blast. No one ever listened to episode 1. It's horrible.
It was a bit rough at first, but like considering what we had and what it is now, it's pretty crazy.
It's been fun, and I've enjoyed having you here.
Pretty impressive, yeah.
So thank you for everything.
I know just in the short time that we've gotten to do this together, it's not going to quite feel the same without you around. I usually always looked forward to, every other week you get to come on here and get to talk with you guys. And, I totally understand what you got to do, and I commend you for prioritizing and doing the right thing and all that. But you'll be missed. Just know that. It was good. So hopefully we'll still see you around.
Yeah. So.
I'm all teary-eyed.
No.
I am. It's sad. I'm gonna miss you, Matt.
Yeah, I miss this too.
I really didn't even think about that until I said it. I'm like, God, yeah, he did. He started this completely with me, like on blind faith, without even really knowing me, like at all. I had no idea what I was doing. Still don't.
That's the best way to do it. Just see what happens.
Okay, hold on. I need a second. Oh, sad face. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for us once again. Thank you for tuning in and listening to us. You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher. I will leave the links in the description. You can follow me, Jazzy, on Twitter at Jazzy_gaming. I did change my Twitter recently to reflect my overall gaming brand rather than just Wildstar, so it is a little different now. One more time for Nuttz. You can subscribe to his YouTube channel for reviews, playthroughs, and commentaries on a lot of different games at youtube.com/Cluffy142. You can follow Cabal on Twitter at Cabal_Makari. Remember to hit the like button if you enjoyed our show, and please leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about all the changes that are coming, and we will see you guys next time.
Aw, Nuttz.
I love you all. I'll miss you.
Miss you too.